Hello and welcome back to Cakes and Cults. My name is Bee and this is my channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have a cat. No, I have a kind of complicated recipe today, only that it has a lot of moving parts. I'm actually doing a strawberry cornmeal layer cake that is in the cookbook Dessert Person by Claire Saffitz. I was gifted this book by my boyfriend. I'm super excited to finally, try one of her recipes. And it's a little more involved than some of the cakes you see me do on this channel. And I really wanted to make it. So there's gonna be some high velocity action today. But my oven's preheated, my butter's room temp. I think we're in a good spot. So today the cult I will be discussing teaching you about, I guess I should say, is Raelism. Now Raelism is based on the experiences of one man who, his name was Claude Vorleon, but he soon changed his name to Claude Rael. The reason being is that an alien told him to do it. So without further ado, we're just gonna get this started. So Claude Vorleon was actually a test driver for automobiles and would report in automobile magazines. That was his thing. And he went to this mountain in Auvergne, France, where he says on December 13th, 1973, he was visited. And that's exactly what it sounds like. He met an alien. His name was Aloha. And this alien said that he was from a race of aliens that actually created life on Earth. And he gave Claude all of these tools that he needed to start a religion, which he told him what to call it. He told him to call it Madek, which in French was like an acronym for basically the Elohim, or the creators of human beings. Also stands for Moses preceded Elijah and the Christ, loosely. So he was given commandments and was told that he needed to start a world government, that he needed to be involved with environment, economics, and political stuff with the environment, as well as trying to establish geniocracy. Now, geniocracy is a bit ableist and actually has ties to Nazism. Geniocracy basically means that you have to have a minimum level of intelligence in order to be involved with politics. So you would be given a standardized test, and that standardized test is what they would use to determine if you were intelligent enough for politics. And it also has stems in eugenics and just very icky things. And actually that got them in trouble because on top of believing in geniocracy, their original symbol, group symbol, which is no longer used for this reason, actually had a swastika in the middle of it. And they're like, no, the swastika just means that time is cyclical. And it's okay, but this is 1973, and the Nazis were definitely a thing in recent memory and continue to be a thing, but so that didn't go over well. By September 9th, 1974, so less than a year later, Vorleon was actually able to create the group solidly enough that it had a governing authority. And in the beginning, there was no minimum needed for entrance into the group. It was just a free forum. It was an open forum. You didn't have to do anything. You just, got to exchange ideas. And, you know, again, some of their ideas were pretty cool. Like they wanted the environment to be saved, you know, they wanted equality. They actually didn't even really believe in gender for the most part, which again, these are all things that are pretty cool and pretty progressive. But there's, as with all groups that tend to be on the fringe, there were some very problematic things hidden underneath. So soon, things didn't really go the way that Vorleone wanted. He was a little more practical, I guess, in his beliefs, in that he believed that the Elohim really existed. He didn't think this was an occult group at all, but the people that were involved in the kind of the governing part of the group were trying to push this more toward the occult side. So he left, and then in 1975, he wrote an entire account about what happened to him, and this actually ended up in one of his main teaching books. October 7th, 1975, he claims that he was abducted again by the Elohim. They picked him up on this mountain that he was on. He's like, I felt this sudden need to like go to the mountains and look at the stars. And the Elohim picked him up, took him to a nearby solar system base that they had. And they treated him to a breakfast buffet. They put him in a jacuzzi that was full of this warm, blue, viscous liquid. And he hung out there. They then took him to another planet where the most important people who have ever worked for the Elohim, like the Buddha and Muhammad and Jesus, were all there, and they all had discussions because he was the next prophet. He was the next person in line to become one of the prophets of the Elohim. So then while he was there, they were like, you know what, like, we believe in pleasure, we believe in you like finding pleasure, we're gonna go ahead and set you up. So he was given 3, he called them biological robot, like concubines, to basically do whatever he wanted with. They were young. His description, they were young but mature. And they hung out, Netflix and chilled, you know. And he did that basically the whole time he was there. And he said this felt like eons, but when he was returned, it was just 3 days later, on October 10th, 1975. And while he was there, he was told everything that he needed to do in order to get the planet ready for the Elohim to come back. And actually, on the day that it was taken, October 7th, 1975, 50 Raelians, they claimed to have seen something like that was cotton candy-esque floating down from the sky. And when they explained this to Claude, now Rael, he was like, oh yeah, that was manna. Like, yeah, that's definitely manna. And if you don't know what manna is from the Bible, angels dropped down, like God gave like the Israelites food because they were hungry, and it was manna from the sky. And this was something during like the time of Moses. So it was considered like a holy food. It's like, yep, that means we're on the right track. We're gonna get the Elohim back. Let's do this. So from 1980 to 1992, Rael went global. He was all over the world. He actually had tons of conferences. One of the first conferences he held had over 2,000 people, and it just continued growing. He actually got enough donations from different Raelians that they were able to go ahead and create a North American base in Quebec, which he called Les Jardins du Prophète, which means the prophet's garden. So he, and I'm sorry, my French is awful, so that's where he was operating the North American and actually the global Raelian group out. A really big part of the Raelian belief is that Elohim wants everyone to live in pleasure. So being in Quebec, which is a notoriously Catholic place because French, Catholicism is very prevalent in European countries like France, Germany, England, etc. So they actually were giving out condoms to teenagers, going like, hey, you guys are super likely to catch STIs, you're gonna have sex anyway, here. So, and unwanted teen pregnancies, we don't want to deal with that either. So here, have some condoms. And they actually are staunchly anti-Catholic because they feel like Catholicism is the antithesis to what they are. So they were doing all sorts of protests in Quebec against Catholicism, one of which is they actually waited outside of a school and passed out wooden crosses to all the teenagers, and were encouraging them to go to a nearby park that they had like a little area set up to burn all of those crosses. So in response, the Catholic Church was trying to sue them for libel, but all they were talking about were like specific things like confession and stuff like that dealt with like vulnerability and guilt that they didn't agree with. And because of that, they actually like won the lawsuit. The Catholic Church couldn't sue for defamation because they weren't talking about the whole Catholic Church. So they actually opened a museum in 1997 called UFO Land. It was a paranormal museum, and they actually created it to be a embassy for aliens. And I think it's still in operation. I don't know. Once this panorama is done, I want to visit if it's still in operation, to be quite honest with you. They also claim to have started a group called Clonade, I believe in 2001. And they claimed in that group that they actually were able to clone the first baby called Eve. And like a big part of their doctrine is that they believe that cloning is the next step of evolution, which will also bring them closer to the Elohim and closer to eternal life, because you can continually exist with clones. So another thing that they're known for is that they're super big into GMOs. Obviously, if they're into cloning, they don't mind things being genetically modified. So they actually sided with Monsanto, probably one of the evilest companies out there. They also, though, started a group called Clitoraid, where they would go and do some reconstructive surgery for people with vaginas whose clitorises were mutilated. Ugh. I can't imagine. But this was super prevalent in Africa, which is part of the reason too that they have such a big group down there, because they have support, especially now that it's been, I think, outlawed in at least 1 or 2 countries. So that's part of their group. But their beliefs really started with the Elohim, and Rael is a prophet, and so was Buddha, so was Moses, so was Muhammad. They were all prophets, people who were like seen as like central religious figures are actually all prophets of the Elohim. And the Elohim actually created life by terraforming the earth 25,000 years ago, and created humanoid biological robots, us, hello, and populated the earth with them. The different experiences that people have had with like God or angels and stuff like that, those are actually people just experiencing the Elohim, but they weren't ready, so they created false memories. They're really big into like masturbation, self-love, free love. They don't believe in monogamy. They don't encourage procreation at all. They won't stop you from having kids, but they're not into it. They don't believe in gender. They think gender is a social construct, so gender expression is actually very fluid and free. And actually a ton of people from the Catholic Church who were gay, and actually even clergy, converted to Raelism so that they could be out, because in Raelism being gay is totally fine. A big part of their religious practice is sensual meditation, where they encourage actually having orgasms while you meditate. And basically the orgasms are from you being so connected to the Elohim that it's such an overwhelming experience, and having some sort of arousal or having an orgasm means that you had a real connection with the Elohim. Another part of that is that they believe that they can speak to the Elohim by literally just physically putting their hands on someone and creating a telepathic connection using someone's cellular energy to speak to the Elohim. So that's another way they talk to their God. And they also have a group of women. This group of women, they are trained to be concubines, consorts of the Elohim, and inadvertently consorts of Rael. So that's actually something that was seen by a lot of ex-Raelians, is that Rael kind of just lives in the lap of luxury, surrounded by beautiful, young, mature women who are his consorts that he trains in order to be ready for the Elohim, to be received when the time comes. They actually do now have a donation system, unlike their previous group Madek that he left because they weren't aligned with his beliefs, and his beliefs is mo money, mo women. And he ended up, him and actually some senior members just live very comfortably. They do conferences, they make tons of money on those. Guided meditations, they make money on those. They're just very big on collecting dues. On top of that, a lot of the works that Rael has actually put out have been cross-referenced with a French UFO ologist, I guess you could say, who, his name is Sendy, who was writing books about experiences and his belief system on what will happen when aliens come to Earth 10 years before this was even an experience that Rael had in 1973. So there was a lot of criticism there, like, hey, you're stealing from someone else, like these aren't even original thoughts, which of course he argues against. So that's part of the reason why a lot of people are leaving. And again, they're leaving because of, creating a harem ain't a good look. I mentioned before too that people notice that a lot of his beliefs and the beliefs of the Elohim are very close to Nazism, with like the ableism and the eugenics and stuff like that. So people have kind of been disenchanted by that as well. So that is Raelism in a nutshell. I'm gonna go ahead and put this cake together. I didn't want to just turn this bad boy on while I was talking to you guys. I felt like that was going to distract me. So this is how this is going to work. I'm going to beat in the butter, I'm going to beat in my eggs, and then I'm going to add this in 3 batches and this in 2 batches, I believe. And then we'll have a cake. So here's the cake. I'm gonna be super honest with you. I don't know if it's because of the ingredients that I use or what, but when I went to go, so the recipe says like bake 1 9-inch pan, let it cool completely, and then slice it in half and then assemble. It started breaking even before I had a chance to cool it completely, like the cake itself. So I'm wondering if the cornmeal makes it super crumbly. And then I had to do a lot of doctoring to even make it look like this. So it's not like the best looking cake right now. So I'm actually gonna put a cake collar on it, and I think I'm going to not learn from my mistakes and continue doing these kinds of cakes where you have to do the slicing and layering, because I can do like a normal layer cake, like if you have me do like 2 solid cakes of chocolate where I'm not doing all this slicing. So anyway, but yeah, here's the cake. I'm going to spare everyone a slice of this cake because I don't think it's going to look very good, to be honest here. But this was fun. It was good doing an episode again, just a normal Cakes and Cults episode. I've done a lot of just fun, different things in between, which you guys seem to respond pretty okay to, so I can do some of those in between if I'm not feeling it. Go ahead and comment any cults that you're interested in me talking about down below, or any cakes that you're interested in me making, and I'll do my best. And sometimes my best looks like this, so be forewarned. So until next time, don't join a cult. Bye!